In Gaza, hospitals are not healing centers anymore. They are battlefields of breath and death. And every second, someone loses the fight. Not because of the wound, but because there's nothing left to save them with. More than 80% of Gaza's hospitals have stopped functioning. The rest are barely standing. Not because the doctors have given up, but because the world has. Electricity is gone. Water has stopped. Medicine? A forgotten word. Doctors operate by flashlight. Surgeons stitch torn limbs with no anesthesia. Babies lie on makeshift mats hooked to machines that beep until the fuel runs out. And then they go silent. And in that silence, a mother sits in the corner of a dim room, her hands trembling, not from cold, but from helplessness. The air is thick with dust, with the smell of burnt plastic and fear. She watches her child's chest rise and fall, too slow, too shallow, wondering if this breath might be the last. Outside, distant bombs echo over a broken city. She flinches, but the baby doesn't. She remembers when hospitals smelled of antiseptic and hope. Now, it's blood, smoke, and prayers whispered through cracked lips. She wipes sweat from her child's forehead with a corner of her scarf, the same scarf she used to swaddle him in when he was born, back when life still felt possible. Her eyes don't cry anymore. They've run dry, but her heart still breaks. Quietly, constantly. And yet, she stays. She holds. She hopes. Because even in the ruins, a mother's love does not surrender. A child named Adam was hit by shrapnel. He needed surgery, just 15 minutes in an operating room. But there was no oxygen, no antibiotics, no clean water to wash the blood. He died holding his mother's hand, whispering, "Mama, it hurts. Help me." And she couldn't. Not because she didn't want to, but because no one could. She held his hand as it grew colder, still warm from the sun he'd never feel again. His blood clung to her fingers like something sacred, something she couldn't bear to wipe away. The room was still, except for the faint hum of a broken fan, spinning slow, useless circles above. Outside, the world crumbled. But inside, time stopped. She stared at the cracked wall in front of her, where Adam once drew stars in chalk, blue and yellow and crooked, just like he liked them. She could still hear his giggle in her memory, echoing faint, like it belonged to a dream she was waking up too soon. There were no screams, only the sound of her own breath, shaky, shallow, as if her lungs too refused to go on without him. And yet, she stayed seated beside him, still, silent, because love, in its final form, is the act of not letting go, even when the world already has. Doctors in Gaza are heroes, fighting without weapons. They write to the world. They scream into voids. One surgeon wrote, "I amputated a child's leg with a kitchen knife because we had nothing left. I am not okay." How can they be when patients bleed to death waiting for a bandage? He doesn't sleep anymore. Not because he's strong, but because closing his eyes means seeing the ones he couldn't save. He remembers the boy's face, pale, wide-eyed, trembling. The way he bit down on cloth to muffle his screams so the other children wouldn't hear. The room smelled of sweat, rust, and something he no longer has a name for. He used to hold a scalpel with precision. Now it's a kitchen knife, rinsed in bottled water and desperation. He whispers prayers between each cut, not out of faith, but out of guilt, as if somehow prayer might soften the pain he's forced to inflict. And when it's over, when the bleeding stops and the silence begins, he steps into the hallway, leans against the cold, chipped wall, and lets a single tear fall, not because he's weak, but because he's human, in a place that keeps trying to strip that away. And still, he returns to do it all again, because in a world that's turned its back, he refuses to. Hospitals aren't spared. They're targeted. Al-Shifa, Nasser, Kamal Adwan, one by one, turned into graveyards. Patients buried in the same halls they were meant to heal in. Ambulances shot at, paramedics killed, and still the world debates, while Gaza buries. She used to walk these corridors in silence, pushing her father's wheelchair past posters of smiling children and faded murals of hope. Now the walls are scorched, the tiles bloodstained. IV stands lie twisted in rubble, like broken branches after a storm. She crouches beside what was once the children's ward. A tiny slipper lies in the dust. Pink, cartoon character still smiling, even though the child who wore it never made it out. She remembers the laughter that once echoed here, now replaced by the groan of collapsing ceilings and the quiet prayers of those who know no one is coming. In the corner, a nurse presses a bloodied gauze to her own arm, refusing to stop. Not for pain, not for fear, because saving one more life, even in the shadow of death, is how she resists. And outside, beneath a sky that watches but does not weep, another mother digs through concrete with her bare hands, searching not for revenge, but for the body of her son. While the world calculates, Gaza counts graves. The babies die quietly. No headlines, no outrage. One by one, the incubators shut down. Not because the babies couldn't be saved, but because the generators stopped. Nurses wrapped them in white cloth, their cries never heard beyond the hospital walls, and their names never spoken. One nurse, Amal, sits beside the last incubator, its lights flickering, then fading like a candle in the wind. She places her palm on the glass, whispering a lullaby through trembling lips, as if the warmth of her voice might somehow reach the child inside. The air is heavy, thick with diesel fumes and silence. She can still smell the baby powder, still see the tiny knitted cap someone's mother had tucked in beside the newborn, a soft blue, untouched by war, until now. She doesn't cry anymore. She just holds them, one by one, as the machines go still, as the room grows darker, as the silence becomes unbearable. She wraps each body gently, as if swaddling them for sleep, then places them in a row, beneath a window cracked by shrapnel. Outside, the call to prayer echoes faintly in the distance. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, just a moment, she imagines their names whispered into the sky, where no bomb can reach. because even in death, they deserve to be remembered. This is not just a collapse. This is starvation of medicine, of care, of hope. Gaza is not dying. It is being killed slowly, with every delay, with every silence, with every convoy turned back at the border. And in that silence, a father stands beneath the sky, empty-handed. He's walked for miles with a paper prescription folded in his pocket, creased and smudged from sweat, from dust, from desperation. His daughter's cough grows weaker by the hour, her lips dry and cracked, her eyes pleading. He can't look at her without breaking. He watches the horizon, where the trucks never come, where hope turns around at checkpoints guarded by excuses. He wonders what kind of world debates the worth of a child's breath, what kind of justice turns its face from thirst and fever. He remembers the days when he could buy medicine from the corner pharmacy, when bandages weren't smuggled in with whispers. Now he kneels beside his child, a spoon of boiled rice water trembling in his hand, and prays, not for miracles, but for mercy. Because this isn't war, it's a slow, deliberate erasure. And every moment the world stays silent, another heartbeat is stolen. You may not hear them scream, but they are screaming. You may not see them die, but they are dying. And we can't say we didn't know, because we do. We see the silence, and in that silence, children are buried. Mothers are shattered. Hospitals collapse, and hope, once again, is bombed out of existence. In a dim basement, lit only by a flickering candle stub, a boy clutches a threadbare teddy bear, its ear torn, its fur matted with ash. He doesn't cry anymore. His voice was lost days ago, buried somewhere between the blast that took his sister and the silence that followed. His mother sits beside him, rocking slowly, whispering verses from memory, each word a stitch, trying to hold together what war has torn apart. The air tastes of concrete dust and dried blood, but she breathes it anyway, because there is no choice. She remembers lullabies, the scent of jasmine in the evening breeze, before the skies turned to smoke. And still, she tucks her son's head against her chest, shielding him from a world that has turned away, because love, even in ruins, still fights to exist, still dares to whisper, "You are not forgotten." Gaza's hospitals are not failing, they are being failed. Subscribe to share their stories, to amplify their truth, so the world can no longer say, "We didn't know."